The stars looked different from asteroid K447. They hung in the darkness like frozen tears, cold and distant. Jiwoo had been on the mining station for 8 months now, and she still found herself staring at them during her breaks. The work was hard, the pay was decent, and the solitude was exactly what she needed after the chaos of Earth. She was checking the geological scanners in Section 7 when the alarm started screaming. The sound cut through the quiet hum of the station like a knife. Jiwoo's hands froze over the controls. She had heard many alarms before. Equipment failures, pressure drops, or small meteor impacts. But this was different. This was the combat alert. Her communicator crackled to life. It was Hyunwoo, the crew supervisor. His voice was tight with fear. "Everyone to the emergency shelters now, we have incoming hostiles." Jiwoo ran. The corridor lights had switched to red, bathing everything in a bloody glow. Her boots pounded against the metal floor as she sprinted toward the shelter. She could hear others running too, their panicked breathing echoing through the comms. She almost made it. The explosion threw her against the wall. The entire station shook like a toy in an angry child's hand. Jiwoo hit the floor hard, her head ringing. Through blurred vision, she saw the wall tear open. Metal screamed as something massive forced its way through the hull. They poured in like a flood of nightmares. The Vrix. Jiwoo had seen pictures in the news feeds, but nothing prepared her for seeing them in person. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, covered in scales that shimmered like oil on water. Their faces were long and reptilian, with too many teeth and eyes that glowed a sickly yellow. "Stay down," someone screamed. It was Hana, the pilot, crouching behind an overturned container. But staying down did nothing. The Vrix had weapons that hummed with energy. They moved through the station with practiced efficiency, grabbing humans and dragging them toward the breach. Jiwoo tried to crawl away, but a heavy foot pressed down on her back. Claws dug into her shoulder, lifting her like she weighed nothing. She kicked and struggled, but it was like fighting a machine. The Vrix warrior carried her through the torn hull and into their ship. The interior was dark and cold. Strange lights pulsed along the walls, casting shadows that seemed to move on their own. Jiwoo was thrown into a large chamber where the rest of her crew was being gathered. She counted quickly. 7 of them had been taken. The others must have made it to the shelters, or they were already dead. Hyunwoo was there, blood running down his face from a cut above his eye. Hana sat against the wall, her hands shaking. Tae-sung, the engineer, was trying to comfort Bo-ra, their medic, who was crying silently. Won-shik stood near them, his jaw clenched tight. A Vrix walked into the chamber. This one was different from the others. It wore something that looked like armor, covered in markings that might have been rank insignia. When it spoke, the words came through a device on its chest that translated into Korean. "Humans," it said, and the word sounded like an insult. "You are prisoners of the Vrix Empire. You will be questioned. You will obey. Resistance will result in pain. What do you want from us?" Hyunwoo asked, stepping forward. His voice was steady despite the fear in his eyes. The Vrix commander tilted its head, studying him like an interesting insect. "We want you to understand your place. Humans are weak. You spread across the stars like a disease, claiming what does not belong to you. We will teach you fear." Jiwoo felt anger burn through her terror. She had spent her whole life being afraid. Afraid of heights after the Seoul arcology collapse when she was 10. Afraid of small spaces. Afraid of losing people. But she had learned to live with fear, to push through it. She would not let these creatures see her break. "We're not weak," she said. Her voice came out stronger than she felt. Every eye in the room turned to her. The Vrix commander moved closer, its scaled face inches from hers. She could smell something like sulfur and metal. "What did you say, little human?" "I said we're not weak." Jiwoo met its glowing eyes without looking away. "If we were weak, you wouldn't need weapons and ships and an entire empire to fight us." The silence that followed was suffocating. Then the commander made a sound that might have been laughter. It was cold and harsh, like rocks grinding together. Brave words, or perhaps stupid ones. The commander turned to its warriors. "Separate this one from the others. I want to test her courage." 2 Vrix grabbed Jiwoo by the arms. Hyunwoo lunged forward, but another warrior struck him down with a casual backhand. "No, leave her alone." "Hyunwoo, don't," Jiwoo called out as they dragged her toward a door. "Stay alive." "That's an order." The door sealed behind her with a hiss. Jiwoo was pulled through another corridor, down a ramp deeper into the ship. They brought her to a smaller chamber. The walls here were covered in strange instruments and devices. Some looked medical. Others looked like weapons. All of them looked designed to cause pain. They strapped her to a metal table that adjusted to hold her in place. The restraints were cold against her skin. Jiwoo's heart hammered in her chest, but she forced herself to breathe slowly. In through the nose, out through the mouth. She had learned that during the collapse, when she was trapped under debris for 9 days. Panic killed faster than anything else. The commander entered the room, followed by another Vrix who carried what looked like medical equipment. "I am Commander Thelkor," it said. "You will learn to regret your defiance." "I've regretted lots of things," Jiwoo said, surprised her voice did not shake. "I doubt this will make the top 10. Thelkor moved to a console and activated something. A screen flickered to life, showing the chamber where her crew was held. They could see her. They could hear her. This was meant to break them all, she realized. Torture one to control the rest. "Your friends will watch," Thelkor said. "They will see what happens to humans who dare to challenge the Vrix." The first device touched her arm, and pain exploded through her body like lightning. Jiwoo bit down hard, refusing to scream, but the pain increased, spreading from her arm to her chest, her legs, her head. It felt like her nerves were on fire, like her bones were being crushed from the inside. She lasted 30 seconds before the first scream escaped. Thelkor watched with those cold yellow eyes, completely unmoved. "This is just the beginning, human." Through the haze of agony, Jiwoo managed to whisper something in Korean. The translator device could not quite catch it. Thelkor leaned closer. "What was that?" Jiwoo smiled, though blood was starting to run from her nose. "I said, you have no idea what we survive." The torture continued. Time lost meaning. There was only pain and the small, quiet voice in her head that kept counting. Counting seconds. Counting breaths. Counting all the ways she would make them pay if she ever got free. Jiwoo held onto that voice like a lifeline as her body began to fail. In the holding chamber, Hyunwoo pressed his hands against the barrier, watching helplessly as his friend suffered. Hana was sobbing. Even Won-shik, who never showed emotion, had tears running down his face, but none of them looked away. If Jiwoo could endure this, the least they could do was witness it. They owed her that much. Hours passed, though Jiwoo had stopped counting. The pain had become everything. It filled her world, drowning out thought and memory. The Vrix had many tools designed to hurt. Some used electricity, others used sound frequencies that made her bones vibrate until she thought they would shatter. Some simply cut. Commander Thelkor worked with the precision of an artist. He would hurt her until she passed out, then use stimulants to wake her up again, over and over. He asked no questions. There was no information he wanted. This was purely about breaking her spirit. "Humans are so fragile," he said, adjusting another device. "Your bodies fail so easily, and yet you spread across the galaxy as if you belong here." Jiwoo's vision was blurred. Blood had dried on her face. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, becoming irregular. Her body was shutting down piece by piece. But somewhere deep inside, past the pain and the fear, there was still a small flame of defiance. She thought about Seoul, about the arcology collapse when she was 10 years old. The massive building had been home to 50,000 people. She had been in a shopping level with her parents when the supports failed. The structure had folded in on itself like paper. Jiwoo remembered the darkness, the weight of concrete and steel pressing down. She had been trapped in a small pocket of space, maybe 3 feet wide. Her mother was beside her, badly injured. Her father was somewhere in the rubble, calling out until his voice went silent. 9 days. That was how long it took the rescue teams to reach her. 9 days in the dark with her mother's body growing cold beside her. 9 days of thirst that felt like swallowing glass. 9 days of wondering if she would die there. But she had not died. Something in her had refused to give up. She had counted her breaths, rationed the small bottle of water she found, talked to herself when the silence became too heavy. She had survived because the alternative was unacceptable. "You're crying," Thelkor observed. "Good. Fear and despair. These are what I want to see." But Jiwoo was not crying from despair. She was crying because she had just remembered something important. She was a survivor. She always had been. And survivors found ways to live. In the holding chamber, Hana had stopped watching. She could not bear it anymore. She turned to the Vrix guard stationed near the door. "Please," she begged. "Take me instead. Let her rest. I'll, I'll do whatever you want. The guard did not even look at her. These creatures had no concept of mercy. Or perhaps they did and chose not to use it. Hyunwoo was still watching the screen. His face was wet with tears, but his eyes were sharp. He was studying everything. The layout of the torture chamber. The positions of the guards. The way Thelkor moved between instruments. If they ever got a chance, any chance at all, he would be ready. Taesung was doing the same thing. The engineer in him could not help but analyze the ship's systems. The way the lights pulsed. The sound of air circulation. The faint vibration in the floor that suggested engine placement. He filed it all away, even knowing they would probably never leave this ship alive. Back in the torture chamber, something changed. Jiwoo felt it before she understood it. Her heart was no longer just irregular. It was failing. Each beat came slower than the last. Her lungs struggled to pull in air. Her vision darkened at the edges. Thelkor noticed too. He checked a scanner and made an annoyed sound. Your body is giving up. Disappointing. I expected more from the brave human. A young Vrix entered the room. This one wore markings that suggested medical training. He looked at the scanner readings and then at Jiwoo. For just a moment, something that might have been discomfort crossed his reptilian features. Commander, the medical officer said. His name was Krell, though Jiwoo would not learn this until later. Her vital signs are critical. If we continue, she will die. I know, Thelkor said. That is the point. Krell hesitated. The others have seen enough, have they not? We have made our demonstration. Are you questioning me? Thelkor's voice dropped to a dangerous level. No, Commander. I merely suggest that keeping her alive might provide more opportunities for future demonstrations. Thelkor considered this, then shook his head. No, we will finish what we started. The humans need to learn that defiance ends only one way. Jiwoo barely heard this conversation. She was somewhere else now, floating in a space between consciousness and darkness. She could feel her body shutting down. Her heart beat once, twice, then nothing for a long moment. Then once more, she thought about her crew. About Hyunwoo, who always remembered everyone's birthday. About Hana, who could make anyone laugh even in the worst situations. About Taesung and his terrible jokes. About Bora, who cried at sad movies but never hesitated in a crisis. About Wonshik, who barely spoke but always listened. They needed to survive this. Even if she did not, they had to live. They had to get home and tell everyone what happened here. They had to warn Earth about the Vrix at Jiwoo's heartbeat one last time. Then it stopped. The scanner made a flat, continuous tone. Thelkor checked the readout and nodded with satisfaction. Time of death, 1723 station time. Record it, Krell moved forward to confirm. His scanner showed no heartbeat. No brain activity. No respiratory function. The human was dead. He had seen death many times, but this felt different somehow. This felt wrong. Commander, she is gone, Krell reported. Good. Have her body prepared for disposal. We will jettison it into space. Let it be a warning to any other humans who think to resist us. In the holding chamber, the screen still showed Jiwoo's body on the table. Hyunwoo made a sound like a wounded animal. He threw himself at the barrier, pounding on it with his fists until they bled. No, Jiwoo! No! Hana collapsed to her knees, sobbing. Taesung pulled Bora close as she cried into his shoulder. Wonshik stood perfectly still, his face blank, but his hands were clenched so tight his nails drew blood from his palms. The Vrix guards watched them with what might have been satisfaction. This was what they wanted. Broken humans. Defeated humans. Humans who understood their place in the galaxy. But something was happening in the torture chamber. Something the scanners did not detect at first. Deep inside Jiwoo's body at the cellular level, something was fighting. Her brain, starved of oxygen, should have died within minutes. But human brains were strange things. They had evolved over millions of years to survive. They had backup systems, redundancies. Jiwoo's body lay still on the table. Thelkor had left to make his report. Only Krell remained, preparing the body for disposal. He worked efficiently, disconnecting the monitoring devices. That was when he noticed something odd. The human's body temperature had not dropped as quickly as it should have. He checked his scanner again. Still no heartbeat, still no breathing. But something was different. Krell moved closer. He placed his hand near the human's mouth. Was that a faint warmth? No, impossible. She had been dead for 30 minutes now. 35, 37. 37 minutes after her heart stopped. Jiwoo's chest suddenly expanded. A sharp, gasping breath echoed through the silent chamber. Her eyes snapped open, wide and aware. Krell jumped back, his medical training completely abandoned in his shock. The scanner in his hand clattered to the floor. "Impossible," he whispered. Jiwoo's eyes focused on him. They were clear, alert, and absolutely terrifying in their intensity. She moved her head slowly, testing her restraints. When she spoke, her voice was rough but steady. 37 minutes, she said. The human record for clinical death and recovery is 42 minutes. I had time to spare. Krell backed toward the door, his scaled hand reaching for the alarm. But before he could activate it, Jiwoo spoke again. "Wait, you're the one who wanted to stop. The medical officer, you have a choice to make right now." Krell froze. His training told him to alert the commander immediately. But something else, something he had thought lost long ago, made him hesitate. Curiosity. And perhaps the smallest seed of doubt about everything the Vrix Empire stood for. In the holding chamber, Hyunwoo was still staring at the screen through tear-blurred eyes. Then he saw movement. Jiwoo's hand flexed. Her eyes opened. He grabbed Wonshik's arm so hard it would leave bruises. "Look," he whispered. "Look at the screen." One by one, the crew members turned. They saw Jiwoo awake, alive, and they understood that something impossible had just happened, something that would change everything. Krell stared at the impossible human on the table. In all his years of medical training, in all his experience across dozens of species, he had never seen anything like this. Death was final. Death was the one constant in the universe. Yet this human had broken that rule. "How?" he whispered. "How are you alive?" Jiwoo tested her restraints again. Her body ached everywhere, but it was working. Her heart was beating. Her lungs were pulling in air. She was alive, and that was all that mattered. Humans are hard to kill. We've been surviving impossible things since before we left our planet. Your heart stopped. Your brain had no activity. You were dead. Clinically dead, yes, but there's a difference between mostly dead and completely dead. Jiwoo managed a weak smile. Our bodies can shut down to preserve what matters. Lower our temperature, slow our metabolism, and sometimes if we're stubborn enough, we can restart. Krell's hand was still hovering near the alarm. Jiwoo saw the conflict in his alien features. "You wanted to stop the commander." "I heard you. That means some part of you knows this is wrong. I am Vrix, I follow orders. You're also a doctor. You took some kind of oath, didn't you? To heal, not to harm." Jiwoo's voice was getting stronger with each word. "I saw your face when you looked at those scanner readings. You're not like Thelkor. You still have compassion. Compassion is weakness, no. Compassion is what separates people from monsters." Jiwoo met his eyes directly. "You can sound that alarm. Tell Thelkor I'm alive and he'll finish what he started. Or you can help me, and maybe save both our species from a war neither of us will win." Krell's hand dropped from the alarm. He stood frozen, processing what she said. Finally, he moved to the restraints. "I am either very wise or very foolish. I have not decided which." The restraints clicked open. Jiwoo sat up slowly, testing her body. Everything hurt, but everything worked. She had cuts and burns and bruises, but she was functional. "Thank you. Do not thank me yet. We are deep inside a Vrix warship. There are 200 warriors between you and freedom. Even if I wanted to help you escape, it would be impossible. I don't want to escape. Not yet." Jiwoo slid off the table, her legs shaky but holding. "First I need to get my crew. Then we need to take your ship." Krell made a choking sound that might have been a laugh. "You are insane. You were dead 37 minutes ago and now you plan to capture a warship? I had a lot of time to think while I was dying. I memorized everything in this room. Every control panel. Every weak point. Every security flaw." Jiwoo moved to the console Thelkor had been using. Her fingers flew across the interface. It was alien but not impossible to understand. "And I observed how you all move. How you think. You're warriors, but you follow patterns. Patterns can be exploited." She pulled up a schematic of the ship's detention area. "Here, this is where they're keeping my crew. If I can override the security protocols, you cannot. The system requires command-level authorization." Jiwoo smiled grimly. "Then we'll need a commander. Is there a way to contact Thelkor from here? This is suicide. Probably. But I already died once today. I'm not afraid of doing it again." Jiwoo turned to face him fully. "Will you help me or do I do this alone?" Krell was silent for a long moment. Then he moved to a communication panel. "Commander Thelkor, this is Medical Officer Krell. I need your presence in the torture chamber immediately. There is a complication with the human prisoner. Thelcor's voice came through, annoyed. What kind of complication? She is dead. It is difficult to explain, Commander. You need to see this yourself. I will be there shortly. Krell closed the channel and looked at Jiwoo. He is coming. What is your plan? Hide. When he comes through that door, I need 3 seconds. Can you give me that? 3 seconds for what? To show him that humans don't stay dead. Krell positioned himself near the door. Jiwoo moved to the side, pressing herself against the wall where she would not be immediately visible. Her body screamed in protest, but she ignored it. Pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive. The door opened. Commander Thelcor entered, his scales gleaming in the harsh light. Krell, this had better be important. I have a report to send to the fleet about... He stopped. The table was empty. His eyes widened as he scanned the room. Where is the body? Jiwoo stepped out from behind him. Right here. Thelcor spun faster than a creature his size should be able to move. But Jiwoo had counted on that. She had watched him for hours. She knew how he moved. She ducked under his reaching claws and grabbed one of the torture devices from the table. It was the neural disruptor, the one that caused the most pain. She jammed it against his neck and triggered it. Thelcor's scream was satisfying in a way that Jiwoo knew she should feel guilty about later. The commander fell to his knees, his body convulsing. Jiwoo kept the device pressed to his scales for exactly 5 seconds, then pulled it away. That was setting 3, she said calmly. You used setting 7 on me. Want to try it? Thelcor gasped, trying to reach for his weapon. Jiwoo kicked it away. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me your command codes. You're going to release my crew, and then you're going to be very quiet while we figure out what to do with you. I will never... Jiwoo pressed the disruptor to his neck again. I learned a lot about pain today. You are a good teacher. Now let's see how well you learned your own lessons. This time she used setting 5. Thelcor's screams echoed through the chamber. Krell watched, his expression unreadable. When Jiwoo pulled the device away, the commander was trembling. Your codes, now. Thelcor gave them, his pride broken by the same pain he had inflicted on others. Jiwoo input the codes into the console, and across the ship the detention cell doors unlocked. In the holding chamber, Hyunwoo was on his feet the moment the barrier flickered and died. Move everyone out! They poured into the corridor. 7 humans in torn clothing, some injured, all furious. Vrick's guards turned toward them, raising weapons. But Hyunwoo had spent the last hours studying the ship's layout. He led them down a side passage using maintenance tunnels the guards would not expect. Where are we going? Hana asked, running beside him. To Jiwoo. She's in the torture chamber. Follow the central corridor, 3rd level down. They ran through the alien ship, their footsteps echoing. Alarms began to sound as the Vricks realized prisoners had escaped, but the humans were faster, driven by desperation and rage. Taesung grabbed a piece of loose pipe from the wall as they ran. Wanshik found a toolkit and armed himself with a heavy wrench. They were not soldiers, but they were human. And humans had been finding ways to fight since they lived in caves. They reached the torture chamber to find Jiwoo standing over the fallen Thelcor, a strange device in her hand. Krell stood nearby, clearly conflicted about his life choices. Jiwoo. Hyunwoo rushed forward, then stopped, unsure if he could hug her without hurting her. We saw you die. I got better, Jiwoo said. Her smile was tired but genuine. Listen, we don't have much time. The ship knows we're loose. We need to move fast. Move where? Bora asked. We're in the middle of a Vrix warship. Exactly. We're not escaping. We're taking it. Jiwoo looked at her crew, these 6 people who had become family over months of working together. I know this sounds crazy, but these aliens wanted to break us. They wanted to show us we were weak. Let's prove them wrong. Taesung hefted his pipe. I'm in. These creatures killed 3 of our friends and tortured you to death. They deserve what's coming. I can access the ship's systems, Wanshik said quietly. If someone can get me to the main computer core, I can pilot anything with engines, Hana added. Even an alien warship. I have medical training, Bora said. We'll need that. Hyunwoo looked at Jiwoo. You know they'll fight back. 200 warriors against 7 humans. 6 humans and 1 turncoat Vrix, Krell said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He straightened under their stares. I have betrayed my commander. There is no going back now. I might as well help you properly. Jiwoo nodded. Then let's get to work. Krell, what's the fastest way to the bridge? Through the central corridor, but it will be heavily guarded. Then we go another way. Taesung, can you work with alien systems? I can try. Good, we're going through the maintenance ducts. Wonshik, Krell, you'll access the computer core and start shutting down non-essential systems. Hyunwoo, you'll coordinate our movements. Hana, Bora, you're with me. We're taking the bridge. Thelkor, still on the floor, managed a weak laugh. You cannot win. You are 7 against 200. Jiwoo looked down at him with eyes that had seen death and returned. We're humans. We don't know how to quit. The maintenance ducts were narrow and dark. Jiwoo led the way, crawling through spaces designed for small repair drones, not living beings. Behind her came Hana and Bora, both breathing hard. The metal was cold against their skin and every sound echoed like thunder. I hate tight spaces, Hana whispered. I really hate tight spaces. Think of it as practice for when we steal their escape pods later, Jiwoo replied, keeping her voice light despite the pain radiating through her body. Every movement was agony, but she had learned to work through pain. Besides, this is nothing compared to Seoul. They emerged in a side corridor near the bridge. Through a viewing panel, Jiwoo could see 2 Vrix guards stationed at the main entrance. Big ones covered in armor, carrying plasma weapons that could cut through steel. We need those guards gone, Jiwoo said. Any ideas? Bora pointed to a panel on the wall. That looks like an environmental control. If we could trigger a false alarm, maybe they would move. Worth a try. Jiwoo pried open the panel with her fingers, ignoring the cuts it caused. The systems inside were alien but logical. Temperature, pressure, atmospheric composition. She found what she was looking for and made adjustments. 30 seconds later, alarms began blaring in the adjacent section. The guards looked at each other, confused. One spoke into a communicator. Then they both ran toward the alarm, leaving the bridge entrance unguarded. That's our chance. Move! They sprinted to the door. Jiwoo used Thelkor's command codes to override the lock. The door slid open, revealing the Vrix bridge. It was massive, curved walls covered in displays showing star maps and tactical information. A dozen Vrix officers worked at various stations. They all turned as the 3 humans entered. Hello, Jiwoo said, raising the neural disruptor. I'm here to talk about your ship's extended warranty. Chaos erupted. A Vrix officer lunged for a weapon. Hana threw the heavy wrench Wonshik had given her, catching the alien in the head. It went down hard. Bora, despite being their medic, proved she remembered her self-defense training. She grabbed a chair and used it to block another Vrix's attack. Jiwoo moved through the bridge like a ghost. She had died and come back. These aliens could hurt her, but they could not stop her. She used the neural disruptor on 2 more officers, dropping them screaming. The remaining Vrix backed away, suddenly uncertain. These were bridge crew, not warriors. They had never expected to fight hand-to-hand in their own command center. Everyone on the floor now. Jiwoo's voice carried absolute authority. Or we see how many of you this disruptor can take before the charge runs out. I'm betting at least 4. They complied, scales scraping against metal as they laid down. Hana quickly secured them with cables from the workstations. Bora stood guard with a plasma rifle she had taken from an unconscious guard. Jiwoo moved to the main command console. The interface was complex, but Krell had shown her the basics. She accessed the communication system and broadcast to the entire ship. Attention Vrix crew. This is Jiwoo of Earth. You may have heard I was dead. I got better. Here's what's happening now. Your bridge is ours. Your commander is our prisoner. And in about 3 minutes, my engineer is going to shut down your weapons, your shields, and your ability to call for help. She paused, letting that sink in. You wanted to show us that humans were weak. You wanted to break us with pain and fear. But you made a mistake. You gave us time to observe you, to learn your systems, to understand your weaknesses. And you forgot the most important thing about humans. We don't stay down. In the computer core, Wonshik and Krell worked side by side. The Vrix medical officer provided access codes while Wonshik's fingers flew across the alien keyboard. He was a systems specialist, trained to work with any interface. The Vrix systems were different but not impossible. There, Wonshik said. Weapons offline. Shields at 20% and dropping. Communication array locked. The crew will panic, Krell warned. They will try to take back the ship. Let them try. Wonshik pulled up a schematic. I'm sealing sections, funneling them into corridors where your people have the advantage. Where my people have the advantage, I am helping you. Your people now means us. Wanshik glanced at him. You chose a side, Krell. There's no going back. Throughout the ship, Vrick's warriors mobilized. They were trained soldiers, veterans of dozens of campaigns. But they had never fought an enemy inside their own vessel. They had never faced an enemy that understood them. Hyunwoo coordinated the defense from a security station. He watched the monitors, seeing Vrick's forces moving through corridors. Taesung, 3 warriors heading your way. Can you handle it? Taesung's voice came back through the communicator. I'm in the engine room. I've got tools and I've got motivation. Let them come. When the Vrick's warriors entered the engine room, they found it dark. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows. They moved cautiously, weapons raised. Then something metal flew through the air. A heavy pipe, thrown with human desperation, caught one warrior in the knee. It went down howling. Taesung emerged from behind a coolant tank. He had rigged a torch, the kind used for cutting metal. Blue flame roared as he swept it toward the advancing Vricks. They backed away, these mighty warriors suddenly afraid of a human with a cutting tool and no fear left to lose. You wanted to see what humans are capable of? Taesung shouted. Here's a lesson. We used tools before we used fire. We used fire before we left our caves, and we've been using both to survive for 200,000 years. What have you got? Scales and claws? He triggered the emergency coolant release. Freezing liquid sprayed across the floor. The Vrick's cold-blooded creatures adapted to warm climates, slowed immediately. Taesung didn't. He moved through the cold like it was nothing, hitting them with the pipe, with wrenches, with his own fists when needed. When it was over, 3 Vrick's warriors lay unconscious in the engine room, and Taesung stood over them breathing hard. Next time, pick on someone your own size, he muttered. On the bridge, Jiwoo monitored the ship's status. Sections were being sealed. Warriors were being isolated and contained. Her crew was winning not through strength but through intelligence and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. A Vrick's officer on the floor spoke. His translator made his voice sound hollow. Why are you doing this? You cannot win. Even if you take this ship, the Empire will hunt you forever. Maybe, Jiwoo said. But first we're going to take your intelligence data. All the information about your military positions, your fleet movements, your plans for human colonies. We're going to take it home and warn everyone. You wanted to make an example of us. Congratulations. You succeeded, just not the way you planned, the officer hissed. You are only 7. We are billions. We're not 7. We're humanity, and you just taught us exactly how to beat you. Jiwoo pulled up a star map. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to set a course back to human space. You're going to pilot this ship nice and slow, and you're going to pray that when we get there, I'm feeling merciful enough to let you live. We will never submit to humans. Jiwoo leaned close to him. You tortured me for 6 hours. You killed my friends. You thought you could break the human spirit. But you know what I did while I was dying? I counted. I observed. I planned. And I promised myself that if I ever got a second chance, I would make every second count. She stood and addressed all the Vrick's prisoners. Your empire thinks we're weak, that we're not worthy of the stars, but we survived ice ages. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived world wars and nuclear weapons and our own worst impulses. We're the species that looked at the impossible and said, watch me. So no, we're not weak. We're survivors, and you just gave us a reason to survive. Hyunwoo's voice came through her communicator. Jiwoo, we've secured the main corridors. 50 Vrick's contained, 30 unconscious. The rest have retreated to the lower decks. Casualties on our side. Bora has a broken arm, Taesung has burns, but everyone's alive. Keep them contained. I want this ship functional when we reach human space. Already on it. And Jiwoo? What you did today, coming back from death, taking this ship, they're going to tell stories about this. I don't want stories. I want to go home. But even as she said it, Jiwoo knew that home would be different now. She was different. She had seen what humans could do when pushed beyond their limits. She had died and returned. Nothing would ever be the same. Krell appeared on the bridge, escorted by Wanshik. The medical officer looked at the secured Vrick's crew, then at Jiwoo. What you have done is impossible. We're good at impossible. It's kind of our thing. Jiwoo accessed the ship's database. Data began downloading to a portable drive. Fleet positions, military capabilities, strategic plans. Everything the human military would need. The Empire will come for you, Krell said quietly. Let them come. Next time we'll be ready. Jiwoo turned to face him fully. You helped us, why? Krell was silent for a moment. Because I am a healer. I took an oath long ago before I joined the military. To preserve life, not destroy it. What Thelkor did to you, it was not about strategy or interrogation. It was cruelty for its own sake. I could no longer be part of that. Then you're not our prisoner. You're our witness. Jiwoo handed him a datapad. When this is over, you'll testify. You'll tell your people what happened here. Maybe it will change. The Vrix warship moved through space at half speed, its weapons offline, its crew confined to specific sections. Hana sat in the pilot's seat, her hands steady on controls designed for beings with different anatomy. She had figured it out through trial and error, and now flew the massive vessel like she had done it her whole life. 3 days had passed since they took the bridge. 3 days of maintaining control over 200 angry Vrix warriors. 3 days of running on adrenaline and determination. Jiwoo had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she was back on that table feeling her heart stop. But she was not broken. She was stronger. We're approaching the border of human-controlled space, Hana announced. Another 6 hours to the nearest military outpost. Good. Jiwoo stood from the command chair. Her body still ached. Bora had treated her wounds as best she could, but some injuries ran deeper than the physical. One chick, how's the data transfer? Complete. Every bit of intelligence on this ship is backed up 3 times. Fleet positions, communication codes, strategic plans for the next 2 years. The military will have everything they need. Hyunwoo entered the bridge looking tired but alert. The Vrix crew is getting restless. Some of them tried to break through the sealed doors again. We stopped them, but it's only a matter of time before they coordinate a real attack. Then we don't give them time. Jiwoo moved to the communication console. I need to send a message. Not just to human forces, but to the entire Vrix Empire. Krell, who had been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward. If you broadcast on Vrix military frequencies, every ship in the sector will hear you. That's the idea. They need to understand what happened here. They will send fleets to destroy you. They'll try. Jiwoo began configuring the broadcast system. But first, they're going to hear what I have to say. She activated the recording system. On screens across the ship, on Vrix vessels throughout the sector, on command centers and outposts, her image appeared. She stood bloodied and bruised, but unbroken. Behind her, the Vrix bridge was clearly visible, controlled by humans. I am Jiwoo of Earth, she began. Her voice was calm and clear. 3 days ago, I was captured by Commander Thelkor of the Vrix Empire. He tortured me for 6 hours. He used every tool at his disposal to break me, to show his crew and mine that humans were weak, that we did not belong among the stars. She paused, letting the words sink in. At 17:23 station time, my heart stopped. Medical scanners confirmed my death. I was dead for 37 minutes. And then I came back. On the screens, she could see Vrix officers on distant ships stopping their work, staring in disbelief. The human body is capable of surviving things you cannot imagine. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. Ice ages, predators, disease, starvation, we survived all of it. Not because we were the strongest or the fastest, but because we refused to give up. Jiwoo gestured to the bridge around her. After I returned, I took this ship. 7 humans against 200 Vrix warriors. We won. Not through superior weapons or technology. We won because we understood something you don't. Survival is not about strength. It's about will. It's about looking at impossible odds and saying, not today. She pulled up data on the screens behind her. This ship contained intelligence on your empire's plans. Attacks on human colonies, invasions, massacres, all of it is now in human hands. We know where your fleets are. We know your strategies. We know your weaknesses. A Vrix commander somewhere transmitted a response. His face appeared on a split screen. You are 1 ship. 1 human. You mean nothing. I mean everything, Jiwoo replied. Because I am proof that you can't break us. You can hurt us. You can kill us. But we will keep coming back. Every time you think you've won, we'll find a way to survive. To adapt, to overcome. She leaned closer to the camera. Here's what's going to happen. This ship is going to human space. We're going to deliver this intelligence to our military, and then your empire has a choice. Leave humanity alone or face a war you cannot win. Not because we're stronger than you, but because we will never stop fighting. The Vrix commander hissed. Your species will be wiped from the galaxy. You can try. Others have tried. We're still here. Jiwoo's expression hardened. You wanted to make an example of me. You succeeded, but not the way you planned. I am now the example of what happens when you push humans too far. I am the proof that we don't break. We don't surrender. We don't stay dead. She gestured to her crew visible behind her. These 6 people are scientists, engineers, medics, not soldiers. But when you tortured me, when you tried to break us, you turned us into something more dangerous. You created survivors with motivation, and there are billions more like us back home. Krell stepped into the camera frame. I am Medical Officer Krell. I witnessed everything. This human died. Her heart stopped. Her brain ceased function. By every medical standard, she was gone. And then through sheer will, she returned. The Vrix Empire needs to understand what we face. These humans are not like other species. They do not accept defeat. Another Vrix transmission came through. This one was different. An older officer, scales scarred from many battles. Human Jiwoo. I am Admiral Korthan of the 3rd Fleet. I have fought many species. If what you say is true, if your kind truly refuses to break, then perhaps we have underestimated you. You have, Jiwoo confirmed. Badly. What do you want? Peace. Not surrender. Peace. A recognition that humans have as much right to the stars as anyone else, and a promise that what happened to me and my crew never happens again. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. I cannot speak for the Empire, but I can speak for my fleet. I will carry your message to the Council. They will decide. That's all I ask. Jiwoo closed the transmission and turned to her crew. Hana, get us home. Best speed. The ship surged forward, its engines pushing toward the safety of human space. In the confined sections, Vrix warriors realized their situation. They were prisoners on their own ship, being delivered to their enemies. Some raged. Others accepted their fate with warriors' dignity. Commander Thelkor, still locked in the brig, stared at the walls. He had broken countless prisoners, had made them beg and plead and betray everything they believed in, but this one human had not broken. She had died instead, and then she had returned to take everything from him. 2 days later, the Vrix warship entered human space. Military vessels surrounded it immediately, weapons armed. Jiwoo transmitted their identification codes and explained the situation. The military officers who boarded could barely believe what they saw. 7 humans in control of an enemy capital ship. Vrix prisoners. Intelligence data that could change the course of the war. Jiwoo stood on the bridge as human soldiers secured the vessel. A general approached her, his face stern but his eyes showing respect. I don't know whether to court-martial you or give you a medal. I'll take the medal, Jiwoo said. We've been through enough. What you did, it's impossible. We're good at impossible. It's humanity's specialty. The general looked at the captured Vrix, at the intelligence data, at the tired but unbroken humans. You've given us a fighting chance. This information, it's worth 100 battles. Then make sure those battles end with peace, not just more death. Jiwoo moved toward the exit. I want these Vrix treated fairly, according to our laws, not theirs. Especially Krell, he helped us. Without him, we would have failed. It will be done. The general saluted. Welcome home, Jiwoo of Earth. The debriefing took weeks. Jiwoo and her crew told their story again and again. Military analysts pored over the intelligence data. Diplomats debated how to use the information. The media called them heroes. They called Jiwoo the woman who died and returned to capture an enemy warship. But Jiwoo did not feel like a hero. She felt like a survivor, like someone who had been pushed past every limit and found something on the other side. Not power, not invincibility, just the simple, stubborn refusal to let the universe win. 3 months later, the Vrix Empire sent an ambassador. The war did not end immediately. Years of fighting followed. But the terms had changed. The Vrix now understood that humanity would not be broken, that every atrocity would be met with resistance, that pushing humans to death only made them more dangerous. Jiwoo returned to civilian life. She did not go back to mining asteroids. Instead, she taught survival training to colonists heading to dangerous worlds. She told her story not to glorify violence, but to show what humans could endure. Hyunwoo became a military advisor. Hana trained pilots on captured Vrix ships. Taesung worked on integrating alien technology with human systems. Bora opened a clinic for veterans dealing with trauma. One chick helped develop better cyber defenses. Even Krell found a place working as a liaison between species, proof that individuals could choose peace even when empires chose war. On the anniversary of her death and return, Jiwoo stood in front of a memorial. It listed the names of those who had died in the mining station raid. Friends who had not survived to see what their sacrifice meant. "We won," she whispered to the names carved in stone. "We survived, and we made sure it meant something." Behind her, Hana approached. "You ready? They want you to speak at the ceremony." "I'm ready." Jiwoo turned from the memorial. "What should I say?" "The truth. That we're not special,